When Gracie Abrams appeared in her recent feature with Cosmopolitan, it felt like a genuine turning point rather than just another glossy editorial. Fans have long associated her with soft vocals, diary-like lyrics, and an almost shy stage presence. This shoot, however, revealed a different dimension, one that felt intentional, self-aware, and refreshingly bold. Instead of abandoning her identity, she expanded it. The images carried a quiet confidence, as if she had decided to let the world see a fuller version of herself. There was glamour, yes, but also humor and warmth. Nothing felt forced or overly curated. It was the kind of evolution that doesn't scream for attention, but naturally commands it. For an artist whose appeal has always been rooted in emotional honesty, stepping into high-fashion storytelling could have felt disconnected. Instead, it felt aligned. The editorial suggested that she's not just growing as a musician, but as a woman learning how to shape her own narrative in every creative space she enters. A sleepover concept with a grown-up twist. The creative direction leaned into a playful, sleepover-inspired theme, yet it avoided feeling childish or costume-like. There were cozy corners, soft fabrics, and intimate indoor settings that echoed late-night conversations and shared secrets. But layered into that nostalgia was a refined polish. Tailored silhouettes, thoughtful styling, and camera angles that elevated the concept into something distinctly high fashion. It felt like a memory reimagined through an adult lens. What made it work was the balance. The atmosphere carried hints of innocence, laughter, movement, spontaneity, while the execution stayed sophisticated. Gracie seemed comfortable within this duality. She didn't overplay the sweetness, nor did she lean too heavily into edginess. Instead, she existed naturally between the two. That equilibrium transformed what could have been a simple themed shoot into a statement about growing up without losing your softness. It reminded viewers that maturity doesn't have to mean abandoning joy. Sometimes, it simply means owning it with confidence. Whimsical details that tell a story. The set design was rich with personality, offering more than just a backdrop. Every prop and pastel accent felt deliberate, like pieces of a visual diary. There were playful textures and imaginative touches that gave the impression of stepping into a dreamscape. Even ordinary architectural features were transformed through lighting and composition, appearing almost magical. What stood out most was how cohesive everything felt. Nothing distracted from Gracie. Instead, the environment amplified her natural charm. The whimsical elements added movement and life to the still images, making each frame feel cinematic rather than static. It was as though the set invited her to play, and she responded with genuine curiosity. That sense of ease translated directly into the photos. Rather than posing stiffly within a styled environment, she interacted with it. The result was a collection of images that felt lived in and authentic, like snapshots from a beautifully imagined world that still held traces of reality. The glow of dreamlike lighting often determines the emotional temperature of a photo shoot, and here it created an atmosphere of softness and romance. A gentle glow washed over each frame, enhancing skin tones and casting subtle shadows that added depth without harshness. The overall effect felt intimate, almost like the quiet warmth of late evening. This dreamy quality complemented the wardrobe choices: delicate fabrics, flowing lines, and pastel hues that shimmered under the light. Even moments of strong posture or confident expression were softened by the ambience. The result wasn't dramatic in a loud sense. It was captivating in a subtle one. The lighting allowed vulnerability and strength to coexist within the same image. It felt intentional, as though the creative team wanted viewers to linger rather than scroll past. By embracing softness instead of sharp contrast, The editorial created a visual language that mirrored Gracie's artistry, gentle but deeply affecting. Confidence beyond the stage. For many fans, Gracie's appeal has always stemmed from her emotional transparency in music. Seeing that same authenticity translate into a fashion setting was striking. Her body language conveyed ease rather than hesitation. Whether seated casually or standing with intention, she looked comfortable occupying space. This confidence didn't feel performative. It seemed rooted in self-understanding, the kind that develops over time through experience and growth. In a visual medium that can sometimes amplify insecurity, she appeared grounded. That grounding gave the images weight. They weren't simply about aesthetics. They were about presence. She carried herself like someone who understands her value beyond public opinion. It's a subtle shift, but one that resonates deeply. Audiences can sense when an artist is stepping into a new chapter with assurance. This shoot suggested that Gracie is no longer just discovering who she is creatively. She's beginning to define it on her own terms, balancing elegance with youthful energy. Perhaps the most impressive achievement of the editorial was its seamless blending of sophistication and youth. The styling choices leaned refined, yet the mood remained buoyant and alive. Gracie managed to embody both worlds without seeming conflicted. She looked polished but never distant, stylish but never overly styled. That duality mirrors the experience of many young adults navigating self-expression, holding on to lightness while stepping into maturity. The photos felt spontaneous, as though captured between moments rather than staged to perfection. That sense of movement kept the elegance from becoming static. It also made the images relatable. Fans could see themselves in her playfulness while still admiring her poise. This balance is difficult to achieve in fashion storytelling, yet here it felt effortless. It reinforced the idea that style doesn't have to be rigid to be impactful. Sometimes it's the blend of structure and freedom that makes a statement truly memorable. Privacy in the public eye beyond the visuals. The accompanying interview added another layer of intrigue. When conversation turned toward personal matters, including rumoured connections with Paul Mescal, Gracie chose careful restraint. Her responses were measured, neither confirming nor dramatising speculation. In an era when oversharing is often encouraged, her discretion stood out. It reflected a conscious boundary between art and private life. That choice felt consistent with her overall persona, open in her music, guarded in her personal world. Rather than fueling headlines, she redirected attention toward her creative projects. This approach suggests a maturity that extends beyond styling and aesthetics. It signals that she understands the value of mystery. By keeping certain details to herself, she preserves authenticity and avoids turning her life into spectacle. In doing so, she reinforces that her work, not her relationships, remains the focal point of her public identity. The allure of subtle mystery can be a powerful asset, particularly in an age of constant visibility. Gracie's measured responses and carefully curated public presence contribute to a sense of intrigue that keeps audiences engaged. She offers glimpses rather than full narratives, inviting curiosity without surrendering control. This balance enhances her appeal. Fans feel close to her through her music and interviews, yet there remains space for interpretation. That space encourages deeper connection. Instead of consuming every detail instantly, audiences return, searching for nuance and meaning. The Cosmopolitan feature subtly reinforced this dynamic. The imagery was intimate, but not revealing in a sensational way. It hinted at layers rather than exposing them outright. That restraint feels refreshing. In a culture driven by immediacy, choosing subtlety can be radical. Gracie seems to understand that longevity often depends on what you choose not to disclose as much as what you share. Building momentum beyond music. As conversations around the shoot continue, it's clear that Gracie's influence now extends beyond streaming platforms and concert stages. Fashion moments like this create cultural visibility that introduces her to new audiences. They position her within broader creative conversations about style, self-expression, and modern femininity. This cross-industry presence can be pivotal for artists navigating long-term careers. It allows them to shape narratives rather than simply respond to them. For Gracie, the editorial feels less like a side project and more like a natural progression. She's not abandoning music. She's enriching her platform. By stepping confidently into fashion storytelling, she signals readiness for larger stages and wider influence. Each carefully chosen opportunity adds depth to her public image, reinforcing that she's an artist with multi-dimensional appeal, defining a lasting presence. Ultimately, the Cosmopolitan shoot was more than a visually striking moment. It was a declaration of growth. Gracie Abrams demonstrated that she can inhabit multiple creative spaces while remaining unmistakably herself. The blend of vintage glamour and contemporary playfulness reflected a young artist comfortable exploring contrast. Her confidence, discretion, and artistic coherence suggest a career built on intention rather than impulse. As she continues to evolve, moments like this will likely be remembered as milestones. They capture not just style, but self-definition. In a fast-moving cultural landscape, lasting impact often belongs to those who understand who they are while remaining open to reinvention. Gracie appears to be finding that balance gracefully. If this editorial is any indication, her presence in both music and fashion will only continue to deepen, leaving an imprint that feels both timely and enduring.